Welcome, welcome, welcome to this edition of Sagionic 1027. But this is a special edition. This is about Valentine's love stories. And before I introduce this couple, I want to tell you how I got to meet this couple. Look at that. X amount of years ago, I was at a restaurant, and it's almost like if I'm somewhere in public, if I feel like somebody in the general vicinity needs to be loved on, I can. There's like a tug inside of me pulling me a direction, right? And so this was the case when I met this young man. And when Steve's in public, he knows three things that I'll share with him. A, I'll be right back, love. B, I'll be right there, love. Or, love, can you please pray for someone? Or can you please bless someone? So this is how I met this amazing man right here, Pier. And then after I met him and I walked out doing what I normally do in life, I realized I had actually met this young man when he was about 6 or 7 years old. I had gone into an establishment, an optometrist, and there was this young man there, this little boy there, and I prayed over this little boy. That he would live a blessed life. And that's this young man right here. And so I want our viewers to know about Pier and Jacqline. So Pier, if you think of relationships and this loving woman that is by your side and your amazing son in the distance, what would you say is most important? Like if you were to pick just one category to dive into the subject, what would you say is most important?
Unconditional love. I felt unconditional love for the first time, and I like thrive in life when I have that security of unconditional love.
I just want to go back about the story that you were saying, because I remember the day that Pier called me right after that lunch and was like, Jacqline, I just had something happen to me and I have to sit down. This is crazy how serendipitous this is. And I just remembered, we always talked about from the start that we had this undeniable connection, that we could just talk for hours and we could dive deep and we can go into our concepts and our dreams. And we just had that no secrets, unconditional love, free communication. This is Shara. This is the product of our love.
It's eating mommy.
Yeah, you're sitting on mommy. But I just remember.
Hi.
I called her and I had to tell her. I said, hey, I don't want you to freak out, but I know we're just dating, but somebody prayed for our relationship today, and it was a really cool experience, and it's not something that happens every day, and I felt it was.
So going back to your question as to what I think is so important in our relationship is just communication, whether in its very honest communication. How do we feel? And those check-ins are on a weekly basis, because between our businesses, it's hey, where do you need assistance in each other's business? Hey, how do we need assistance in feeling loved, making sure our bucket is full? And how do you need assistance to be a better dad or a better mom this week? Or, making sure that we also make time for each other is really critical for us.
Wow, I really like that verbiage, Jacqline. I want to share something on that verbiage, but I want to go back to one thing that you said, Pier. Without it being said, it was like the sensory inside of me was when I met you in that restaurant was you were looking for a mother's blessing. And so when Steve prayed over you, I remember telling Steve, wow, it was so powerful. The presence of the Lord was so strong in that meeting that there was no denying that it was going to affect your future. And the magnitude of it, I am now seeing. And so Jacqline, I really like what you said in how can I pour love into you to help you feel more successful in your business or in your life? So can you give us some examples, Pierre, of ways that Jacqline has been able to step into that role that has helped you to walk out more successfully?
So how has Jacqline stepped into a role in my life that helped me become a better version of myself? Was that the
Yeah, or
question?
just more successful in, like whatever it is you're doing. Now keep in mind everything has to be outside of the BEDROOM. We have to keep everything in front of the public eye in this.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. You're so funny.
Okay. So, purpose, when you have someone to care for, provide for, and you're no longer just thinking about yourself, you're thinking about, the standard you want to hold yourself or your partner, and, representing the team. Pushed me into doing things more purposefully and holding myself accountable in a lot of areas of life. And fatherhood has definitely been a blessing, but one of the scariest chapters I've ever started writing in my life. I didn't really have a good example of a happy new parents at home, and I'm just trying to do it the best way that I can and give my son the childhood that I didn't experience. And I'm just lucky enough to have a pillar like Jacqline to be supported and do life with.
That's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing because, in essence, you had a choice. Were you going to take your past to predict your future? Or were you going to take your past to determine the trajectory of your future? I remember Steve saying, when it came time to take a child home from the hospital, he was like, what? He says it best. What do you say when they let you take home the first kid from the hospital?
I was talking about, they're just going to let us take them? I don't even know what to do.
Right?
So true.
That was kind of funny, just because it was so...
They just let you take them home!
Yeah, they just let them
Yes.
training or anything.
Well,
So you kind of
to expand on what Pierre was saying,
Go ahead.
there was a lag. To expand on what Pierre was saying, we waited a long time to have kids, and we purposefully did that because we both wanted to create the most solid foundation between the two of us. And for us to be a great partner, we also had to come into ourselves. And I think that's really important, is you really have to know who you are and what your purpose is and what type of parent you want to be, and also have those establishments and those hard conversations, but also allow your relationship to grow into that solid foundation.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really purposefully put a lot of thought and communication about when would be an appropriate time for us, and how is that going to look like, and how are we going to use the good and the bad of our childhood and create the most secure, loving, happy environment that can make a human succeed in life and be able to flourish in our current environment that we're living in. And so for us, it was really important to have those solid pillars heading into becoming parents.
That's really wise, Jacqline. That's really wise to sort through all of that stuff, right? So in essence, your desire, like Steve and I, one of the things Steve talks about is that we won't be divided. We will be in one accord, right? So like when we were in the midst of rearing our children, if there were situations that came up, we would discuss them behind the scenes. And even though your guy's little, right? This is for all viewers listening. We would discuss things behind the scenes. And then when we were on the same page, then we would share it with our children. So because kids need to know that the parents are one, right? They need to know that you guys are a team. And also, you know, because it's like a lot of times we go through life and we don't realize the effects of different things that we've been subjected to. And then at some point, it's almost like there's a Ziploc baggie that's open and stuff's smashing out of it. And you're like, what is this? Where is this coming from?
Yeah, kids will divide parents, so it's important to be on the same. That's where you talked earlier about communication. And communication is good, but you have to learn to decipher men communication, the men communication to women communication, because they are different. And that's something we've tried to work on, because a lot of times in my mind, oh yeah, it's, we're good, it's settled, it's set. And then in her mind, no, we haven't figured this out yet. Because I think us men tend to, it's cut and dry, it's easy. We don't have to overkill communication. But a lot of times, I think the females want to communicate and then some. Communicate.
Why does he keep looking at me when he's saying this?
So, yeah, that's actually when we got interviewed last year. We got interviewed about that was our big thing too, was communication. One of our top three, I think.
Takes extra work, but once the goal of the mission is clear, that you guys just want to have a balanced dynamic and everything good at home, then you put in the extra work and make sure that her mind is at ease with that extra communication, and letting her know that you have empathy for everything, and make sure all the boxes are checked, even though you're just ready for the next play as a man. Okay, ref called a flag and I'm ready for the next play. Like I'm in go mode as a man, but they need extra. They need extra.
I think it's also important to understand, and I think we do a great job, is it's not him or versus I in a conflict, it's the problem versus us. And so when we act as a team, it also removes the emotion out of, hey, this isn't me versus you, this is us going to conquer as a team the issue, and we're going to solve it. And so kind of going back to what you're saying about how, when you have kids, it opens up the bag. And I felt, and I wasn't prepared for this, and no one told me about it, is after having Shaw, going into pregnancy, I was like, oh my gosh, I have myself figured out. I know who I am. I battled my childhood demons. I'm a solid person. I got this. And after having a kid, it was like, let me just rip open all your wounds. You're going to have to relearn yourself.
Yeah.
You went down avenues of like your childhood that you never remembered.
It's true.
And it was so humbling to me, especially like I'm such a planner. Like Pier is more like go with the flow, and I need structure. I need a plan. I need a goal to work towards. That's just my personality. And so for me to be like, okay, plan A, plan B, plan B, C, with having a kid and then having a solid halt of like, hey, no, you still have a lot to work on, not only on yourself, but also as your relationship, is very humbling. And so that is like something as advice is like also have the expectation that there's going to be things that you thought you solved in your childhood that are going to be incredibly ripped open.
You know, and Jacqline, that's really wise what you said. We'll get to the parenting part in a second because that's called sleep deprived zombies.
Yeah, that too.
It's like, get the bed in the boot, quick, please.
Yeah, I know.
But I really like what you shared, that it's not me and you. It's not us, me against you or you against me. It's here's the situation. How do we work together as a team to resolve the situation that is at hand? That like screams wisdom.
Well, I would say that a lot of things in a relationship is leaning on one's strengths. You know, you lean on their strengths and weaknesses. Like, you know, one might be good at one thing and the other better at another thing. So you kind of work together on figuring out, okay, I might not be the best at this. So, but so the best advice that I got when I first became a parent, and I've used this before, you know, the birthing classes you go to, breathe, you know, this many times, you know, blah, blah. Well, this nurse she was talking about, and she spoke to the women in the class, so it stuck out with me that way. But she said, you know, if you see your husband and he's fumbling with a diaper and he may not be doing it right, excuse me, my throat's a little sore today, but if you see him fumbling and he's not doing it right and you're over there saying, it's not the way you do it this way, let it go. Let him do it. Let him figure it out the way he's going to do it. At least he's doing it. You know, let him fumble through it and do it, and it'll get done. May not be perfect.
I thought you were going to say she told you to breathe.
Not me. Yeah.
If you want to step in and say, "Hey, you're not doing it right," don't say it. Just remember you're breathing.
Remember your breathing.
Remember your breathing. That is so good. That is so good. That is so good. You know, I had to move all my stuff to put Steve in my studio today, but I normally have a book, okay? And one of the books I like to share with people, and no, I don't get paid for sharing any of these books, but it's by Dr. Caroline Leaf, okay? And it's Think, Grow, and Learn, or Think, Learn, and Grow. Think, Learn, and Grow. But Dr. Caroline Leaf, she's a neuropsychologist, and one of the things she said is that when a person is in an angered state, it is like a burning inferno inside of their brain cells. And as soon as I heard that, I thought, oh my gosh, I've got to get over anger so fast now. I can't let it hang on inside me because I'm one, my husband could raise his hand, I'm one who could go from nothing to a 50 in 2 seconds. And so I tried to reel that back but keep it in here, but then quickly get rid of it, right? Because I don't want to fry my brain cells, right? But I really want to talk to Jacqline on what she's talking about with parenting, right? And it say for instance, like Steve and I, this is our second marriage. Okay, Steve's previous bride is in heaven, And my previous bride, I have not had communications with him
Right.
since my previous husband. Haven't had communication with him since 2000. Okay, so we're the parents in the scene, right? But when you meet someone, when you come together with someone, you're not coming together with just that person. It's that person and everybody that's wounded that person before that moment in time.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yes.
So Pier, share with us. Actually, I don't know the question. Ask Pier a question that pertains to manhood.
Well, now you threw me into the spot, so
You're in the hot seat.
I wasn't prepared for that. So, how do you guys work on like the respect aspect?
That's good. We had a rule, right?
Yep.
Uh, when we first started dating, because we wanted to keep the respect at a very high level, nothing below the belt. We didn't fight below the belt.
Nope.
We didn't tell each other to shut up. A lot of couples say shut up just even jokingly. And we had a rule like, that's not something we say to each other because we don't want to get too comfortable, in with the respect. So the respect thing was very big on us in our relationship, and it helped us lay the foundation that we needed to lay. And I'm glad that we did that because the foundation we laid early on in our relationship has proven to that we can go pretty far. We're coming on year 9 now, and we still have check-ins with each other and saying, hey, what does the next 5 years of our relationship look like? And I want her to achieve all the goals that she wants, financial security, her spiritual walk, her traveling goals. She wants to see the world. It's like, motherhood and family. Like that was very big in her. That was very big to her. And for me, it was not something that, I would vision board as a dreamer, but I knew that was very important to her. So I got on board, and I just feel that was the best decision I made as an adult, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And going into respect too, is that kind of expanding on what you were saying, is that we set clear expectations from the beginning of, hey, when we fight, this is how we're going to fight. And also we were reading like all the different love languages and how we want to be communicated with when we are feeling upset.
Sure. And then also tell them that we had different communication skills as far as love language, and then we have also different we fought different in the beginning. Like I was used to a different fighting or arguing style than she was, and then we met in the middle there, and then the love language, we had a different love language than each other. So
I love like personal touch and words of affirmation, and Pier loves acts of service to feel loved, not in a bad way, but like
it sounds bad.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't sound bad at all. No, it doesn't sound bad.
No, but like Pier appreciates if I bring him coffee in the morning, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna like conquer the day. Like that's how he feels loved. And it's not like grand gestures, it's the little things. And so for us, I also was like, hey, I want words of affirmation, and that's just what I expect before even communicating that. And so we also had to learn to like almost retrain ourselves to how we show love so that we both feel that way. And going back to like, we would not fight below the belt. We, to this day, you do not say the words, hey, we're going to break up. If you say those words, like, I mean, and we also agreed to 6 months of counseling if we do feel like we want to break up. So we also like set a clear guideline of how we want this to go down if it goes down that path is we need to seek additional help, because we need to do, especially with having a kid, everything in our power to give Shaw that two-parent household. And I mean, I'm not saying it's a walk in the park. I would say this is worth, 2 full-time jobs, but we both agree that this is our priority. This is what our value is. This is what we want out of our life. We do want a powerful team, and we get to give our children, hopefully there's more one day, the childhood that we want. And also we understand our why. And I think that's a huge part of a successful relationship is you guys have the same why.
That's right. That's right. And what would you say? Sorry, I'm going to move something out of the way there. What would you say? Because you talked about the love language. Not everybody knows about that there's different love languages, right? Some people don't know these things, right?
Yeah.
And so was there some kind of videos that you guys watched on that? Or was there a book that you read? What would you share with our audience?
It's a book.
It's a book?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a book.
Yeah, in the beginning of our relationship, I wish we could say we're really into reading right now, but it's really hard with a toddler. Once we get to relax, we fall asleep right away. But in the beginning of our relationship, we really went into a lot of philosophical books, and just we really were into making sure that we saw the world in the same way in terms of morals and ethics and how we see a marriage going, and we just really put a lot of effort into it.
That sounds really wise, and because why would you step into something, even if you thought of it like a career, right? Nobody wants to step into a career. Nobody wants to step into anything with a presupposition of failure. Nobody does, because as humans, we are not created that way. We're not created to say, I'm going to do this, but I know I'm going to fail. No, we're not created for that, right? And what you guys are doing is going to change Shaw's life, right? By the example that he's seeing. So basically, in essence, you guys are breaking potentially something that wasn't in your past, okay? I know Pier shared a little bit about his past, and I'm not speaking that over you, Jacqline, but each generation, we have the opportunity to change and to do something different. It's almost like it's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And so Pierre, talk a little bit about that, on taking on that responsibility, on that loyalty, to have that loyalty to this woman that is before you. You shared a little bit about it earlier, as far as instead of it being me, myself, and I, it was now my world is with this beautiful woman, So you can share the benefits of that. Instead of just feeling yourself as a man, taking yourself and putting yourself connected to a woman.
Well, it's not easy. So maybe the benefits are not instant. They're gonna be in the future. But putting someone before you, has to be probably the hardest decision anyone can make, because they're not wired that way, But you find somebody that you want to build a family with, and it's instinctual. It becomes instinctual. It's not a choice I make. It's just how my brain becomes wired, and how my heart overpowers, the rest of my life, my whole world. Is just, think about us and our unit. That's just what we do.
I just saw a visual, and the visual I saw was like not a timeline, but like a chain link. okay, that goes from the time you were born until the time you are done with this life, okay? And I saw the chain link go so far, but then now the chain link was attached to the other person's chain link, right? So you got the two chain links like this, and now they're attached here, and now the one chain link goes forward, which means anything that you do on that chain link is going to be connected to Jacqline. Anything Steve does on that chain link is going to be connected to me. So there is no longer, I can do this by myself, or I should be able to do this by myself, or I should, no, because that one chain link is now connected to the remainder of the life.
I think that's a beautiful visual, and I think that really portrays what we really seek out to do every single day. And like my parents my parents divorced when I was little, like going into kindergarten, and they've both been remarried, another time additional to that. And I think it almost gave me more power to say, hey, I want to see a relationship between like Pier and I want it almost to like prove to myself that I can have a long, like healthy marriage. And that's something that I almost seeked out as a purpose for me, is that I, as I became an adult, I really only dated for marriage because I really felt like that was something I wanted to experience. And that was something that I seeked out from a young age. And so
she knows.
Yeah.
She knows because I think that's what she was like. I think that's what we were talking about at the coffee shop when I met her. Or the brunch.
Intentional dating.
Cafe. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I really wanted to build something that was sustainable and that could weather any storms. Life is not perfect, and there's going to be really hard weeks and months and years. And I wanted to have, kind of going back to that foundation, something that could weather all those storms. And I was okay with taking things slow to ensure that. And I feel like we're really able to, I feel like when you grow slow and sturdy, you get to achieve a lot more in life, working as a team and just being able to repair things instead of, oh, this relationship isn't working out because we're having a hard month, so I'm going to start over again. And that was something that I didn't want for our life.
We took things very slow.
Very slow.
Very slow.
Oh. This is just, it's just beautiful to be able to have this conversation with you guys because, we've got probably 20 years, I'd say 20-year gap between us and you guys, right? So in essence, it's like our generation, the next one, and the next one, and what you guys are sharing is going to speak into others that are in your age category, right?
Early 20s.
I think that was an LIE.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Those days are gone.
But I think is what's so good is that to just really think about it. Think about, be intentional. Be intentional. That's the word I'm looking for. To be intentional, right? Not just for the very moment, like right now, but let's look at the bigger picture, right? Because do you want to be someone who's in your, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that has bounced all over the place? Or do you want to be someone that has created foundational strengths?
Yeah.
Or as Jacqline said, pillars, right? She wanted it was important for you guys to have certain pillars in position, right? Before stepping into parenthood.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question for you guys.
Okay.
Say every marriage you get into a funk or you're into a fight, how do you guys, because you guys have been married for a long time, so I want to hear some advice. How do you guys come back together, get back to being
Okay, so
the
this
unstoppable.
this is great. Okay, so here's the example I like to give people.
Yeah.
I remember because ours was fast track, right? We got married, we merged our families. 3 children came from my womb, and 2 children came from his loins. Okay, we merged our family, and in the first 5 years, 4 of our 5 children graduated.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's called fast track, right? And so even this week, I was having a conversation with one of my sons, and I said, son, I would like you to think of something, right? Because now it's like called establishing a relationship with the children. I said, when I was your age, I was working full-time outside of the house. I was doing 5 loads of laundry a day. I was doing all the cooking. I was doing the grocery shopping. And somewhere in there, I slept. Oh, and then I woke really early in the morning to have my special time with the Lord. And somewhere in there, I slept. Now put that work schedule on your plate. Oh, sorry, I was sleep deprived, right?
You're a saint. Oh my goodness.
But I remember one time Steve saying to me, why when things get so tense do you go off into the room? And I remember saying something to him. And I said, I don't have any visuals to hold. I'm a visual person. I remember saying to him, oh no, you want me to go into that room. Because when I go into that room, I ask the Lord to put me back together again.
Wow.
He then puts me back together, and then I can come out and be a more reasonable person. Right? And so I don't think, I think you're always in a growing state. Literally, you're in a growing state, right? So Jacqline is like the planner, right? I would have to say my brain thinks plans. My brain thinks order. And when stuff's out of order, Steve said I actually have a manual.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, because she goes way over here. Boy, how do we? I mean, like you said, we came together full throttle. And here's the thing that the advantage we don't have is we didn't come together young and mature together. We came together already set in our ways and things. So it was a disadvantage because we hadn't learned each other at the young level. And so it's a great thing I'm so calm, cool, and collected. That's all I have to say.
Whatever.
No, I'm kidding. You just work it out, and not to say we haven't, fought, but like she was alluding to earlier, we would try to get on the same page and dismiss ourselves to our room to talk, get on the same page. And once we're on the same page, then we can. We have it on our. Last year when we got interviewed, we had 7 things we had to come up with before the interview, and one of them was compromise. And compromise is huge because there's certain things that, especially like I said, we came together full swing. I was set in my ways, she's set in her ways. So we had to find compromise. We had to work on compromise. We had to understand compromise. So that was the biggest thing to help us navigate fights is learning compromise.
And you know what else I also think? I also think that, gosh, I'd probably have to say a good 80% of the time, it's more or less coming to a resolve within one's own mind. So you come to a resolve in your own mind, right? Because not everything is solved between the two of you. You have to come to a place of resolve in your own mind. Are you going to accept this space in time, right? Or are you going to try to push past that, right? And everybody knows that if you try to push past what's acceptable at the moment, right? Because you've got two, like, you can't get much more stronger personalities than this couple, like this man by himself or this woman by herself, right? The personalities are so strong. You know, like when the 20 and change whippersnapper counselor counseled us, he's like, you guys will never make it. Right? So you just
Well,
kind of, like, you have there's also a self-awareness on learning to, where's your accepting barometer, right? Where do you come to that line of peace on, like, okay, here's where this is what I want to hang on to, and then this is where I need to bend, right?
I think that's so true for us because we're both fire. We're both super opinionated, very strong-willed, and our kid is 2x us, so we're in big trouble. But
Yeah, she tells the story about, so I coached football, and I coached my son in football, and I can't remember, he got in trouble or something, and she wanted to ground him from football. And I was like, well, that ain't happening. He's playing football, and he's dedicated to this team, and she was headstrong and nope, he's not going to practice. He's not playing in the game. And I said, yeah, he is going to play in the game and he's going to practice, and we'll figure out a different way, for punishment. But and
let me tell you my response to that. My response to that was, that's fine, but there's nothing inside of me that agrees with it. And I walked away.
Wow. And you know what? Being able to vent and have your partner be able to decipher what is you being venting and just needing to be heard versus like, okay, I'm going to take this with a grain of salt because I know that this is your time to vent, and also being able to filter out what it is. And also, like, being in a marriage, that you're never trying to intentionally hurt one another.
No.
And sometimes you just need a vent and be heard, and that's okay. That is healthy. Pier has an incredible aunt that I really look up to. Yeah, there you go, buddy. And she always says, if you are fighting in a relationship, that is the best sign to know that you guys still care so much about how you guys feel. That tells me that you're still madly in love. Because it's the second when you stop fighting is when you should be concerned. And so I always hold that because we are very strong-willed and we both have strong opinions. And I think that's what makes us so strong. But there was a huge learning curve for us of, hey, when do I back off versus when do he back off? And it becomes a fluid dance. And just that parenting moment you were discussing, it's so true. There's some things where I have to say, okay, you know what? I can tell that Pier is super passionate about this, and I'm going to back off at this moment. Even just like being able to pick each other up on an empath level is all about staying connected. And we just had a moment where Shaw split open his eye, on Monday. And we were both right there when it happened. He ran into a chair arm. He bounced off. It was bloody. He was screaming his head off. And I was just, I couldn't be strong. I needed Pier to be strong for our family. And I just held Shaw, and Pier goes, what do we do? Does he need stitches? And he's rambling off. I go, at this moment, I just need to be here with Shaw. As his mom, you need to make the decisions. And this was like such a great example of when, as a team, sometimes you have to pick up the slack and also know when it's time to step up and step down.
That's right. That's right.
And so Pier had a really great friend.
Yeah, that's a great example. That's a great example, Jacqline. That's such a great example because it's the give and take, it's the bending, it's so important.
And it's not necessarily about right or wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, because one person could be right, but bend or give in. I don't even like to call it giving in, but just choose to let go the other way just because of circumstance.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
That's right. That's right. So I just really wanted to thank you guys for coming on today. One of my favorite passages are, two are better than one, for if one falls, he has the other to pick him up. But woe be to him who falls and has no one to pick him up. And you guys are such an incredible example of being there for one another, not just for your own selfish motives, but for the next generation to come. Now, and this might sound a little silly, but your grandchildren are already inside of Shaw.
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
like,
Oh my gosh.
that's like, I'm serious. That's like taking it to the next level. So you are literally sowing into your son and your grandchildren by the love you pour into your son.
Yeah.
We look up to you guys.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. This was such a great experience.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thanks,
for your
guys.
Thank you for
And
your hand on my life.
Yes. And until our next episode of Sagionic 1027, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon thee. Blessings. Bye.
Blessings.
Bye.
Bye.